Hey everyone, welcome to I was not enthusiastic at all. The One for the Dagger podcast, Feathered Flow, and the worst show in Chicago, having as fun as we always are watching the Blackhawks. We have a very special guest today, between me and Tommy at underscore 88 Showtime and Bryant double underscore 17. We have Mr. Adam Hess from Faxes From Uncle Dale, who is usually on their podcast and does a lot of their raps. He's a good friend of mine on the Twitterverse. Really funny guy. Managed to get him on here tonight to talk about the Blackhawks. And what a great amount there is to talk about, because we've watched these last four games basically just get they have like a glimmer of hope for like a second, because they play their best game of the year versus Dallas, where they get a shutout, they outpossess the other team, and generally they just look very good. But the other three games that were also against Dallas, at Dallas, and then also the two games they had versus Colorado, I guess this other game they've had against the Blues, where there is just no reason to watch the Chicago Blackhawks anymore. Like, it honestly sucks the life out of you. And I'm coming to you here in like this sad boy emo format, not really because I'm trying to do like a bit or anything, but like I really can't formulate into words what I keep watching and putting myself through for absolutely no reason other than to either do this podcast, much like Adam does his fucking raps, or I also have to be there for when they win, because it's almost like a dopamine hit at this point. It's like drugs. Like, I just need that one W. I'm just constantly chasing it like some magic dragon or something like that. I have no idea, but just like I wanted to talk about like how bad the Hawks got so fast. And Adam, I was going to toss to you, like, don't we have better things to do than to watch this shitty ass excuse of a team?
Well, first of all, try to sound a little more excited, motherfucker. You got me on the podcast here. Okay, this is exclusive company you have here. But coming off that really pathetic loss to the Blues, I definitely don't blame you for being in a disheveled mood. In terms of like, don't we have better things to do? I absolutely do. As you kind of hinted at, I truthfully have just kind of taken to the point where I follow along on Twitter. I watch like highlights and recaps on my phone on the NHL app. But if I don't have to recap the game for Faxes from Uncle Dale, I am not watching. It's just, I have far better things to do with my life. And I think like what you're talking about with chasing that W and like the adrenaline high and just like the emotional peak that you kind of get from like watching those wins, that's kind of where I've come at, like with the Bears almost, where it's like, I know I'm setting myself up for disappointment when I watch Bears games, but when they win, I still feel like the same kind of like victory endorphin. I don't even know, like that emotional high of like, they're a good team. And I can't even feel that with the Blackhawks anymore, because it's just every single win feels like empty calories. I think specifically like back to those games against Dallas, which like were probably two of the tightest, like most intense games the Hawks have played so far this year. And I remember even thinking about like, because I recapped the first one that was in Dallas, which they lost in the shootout. And I remember thinking like, this game was like super intense, like one of the tightest games that they've had. And like kind of at any moment felt like it could swing with just one goal from either side. And I still felt so bored. I still did not feel like on the edge of my seat or like I was so excited for what could happen. I was like, this is not exciting. And it was probably the most intense game they've played all year. And one thing I thought was interesting you said was like how the Hawks got so bad so quickly. Personally, I don't think it was that quickly. If you follow any of the stuff I do at faxesfromuncledale.com, which you fucking should, especially like previewing this year, anytime I was previewing a defenseman, I was pretty much down on him. I think the only one I might have written about in like a positive light was I think I wrote about Adam Boakfist and wrote good things about him, obviously, and then I was a little nice to Duncan Keith, but otherwise I wrote Oli Mata specifically, and he was terrible, and I wanted nothing to do with him. And I'm very optimistic about these forwards, and I like the goaltending, but I knew that blue line was going to be the downfall, and I also was not confident in Jeremy Colleton's system, which I know is something that you've been pounding on Twitter. And so the two biggest issues are the coach and the blue line, and they're both coming to fruition in that the Hawks basically are reaping what they sowed in terms of this blue line they've built. They were supposed to improve the blue line over the offseason, and instead of doing that, in my opinion, they actually made the blue line worse by shipping Henri Jokiharju out and bringing in Oli Mata, who is significantly worse and just overall terrible. Calvin DeHaan's fine because they got him for nothing and he's useful, but otherwise, I think it's been a slow crawl to this really bad roster.
Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. You do have a good point. Like, this is kind of just like reaping what they've sowed, just in terms of like general build up towards the season, the way they constructed their roster. I guess I didn't really mean it in strict terms of like, oh yeah, they were good, but now they're trash all of a sudden. Like, it's a big shock. It really isn't. Like, I had kind of alluded to this in some earlier tweets from weeks previous, where I said like, you look at the outlook of their next 13 games, they have the potential to lose all of them. Well, they had a stint where they got red hot offense, and they looked great for a time. Nobody really figured it was that sustainable, but I mean, pretty much it's kind of panned out to the way I thought it was initially going to go, where they just like have a good game here and there, and then the rest of the time they look like trash. So I guess it's not so much like them getting bad really fast, but moreover, there's just not like a lot of in between. Like, I know the term roller coaster is a bit overused in the sports world in general, but like, this has got to be like, like a Millennium Force style coaster that the fucking Hawks are going on right now, where they're either potting 5-6, sometimes even have they even scored? Yeah, they've scored 7 goals. They scored seven goals against Nashville a night, and then the next stretch of games, they're either getting shut out or they're getting very paltry results in terms of offense. So no, I guess they didn't really get bad out of nowhere, but my God, I just wish there was a bit more consistency, is I guess what I'm trying to say, because right now there's none. They lose all their close games. They lose all their must-win games. I mean, except for maybe one. I guess that was that Vancouver game that absolutely saved Jeremy Colleton's job. But even then, that was a result of John McDonough coming down from his, high tower and grabbing Colleton by the neck so hard his eyes came out of his head like a cartoon.
Right. I think Jay Zawaski called that a pee-pee slap meeting.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much exactly what it is. It's basically just a big dong whipping to whip him out all into shape, and Colleton specifically, I should say. But I mean, Tommy, I kind of wanted to defer to you with the same question. Like, don't we have better things to do?
I mean, I'd like to say that I do, but I mean, I've sat through every single game so far this year, and I know I'm going to watch them get their asses kicked against Boston whenever that game is later this week. But I mean, the roller coaster. I mean, the season has been a roller coaster. I think the last time we did this was they had just beaten Buffalo, and they took like 11 out of their last 12 points, and we were feeling good. We were on here and talking about, this is kind of more of what we expected going into the season, and we looked at their upcoming stretch of games, and we said, if they could take one against Carolina and Tampa Bay, and then maybe get 5 to 6 out of the 8 points against Colorado and Dallas, we'd really be feeling good. And what happens? They lose against Tampa Bay, they lose against Carolina. They take 3 out of 4 against Dallas. That was good. But then they just get absolutely fucking destroyed by the Avalanche. Just not even... The games were pretty much over before they started. And then you have the game tonight where... I mean, the Blues' effort level was somewhere around a -6, and they easily take care of the Hawks in convincing fashion. I mean, this team sucks. It's plain and simple. They are fucking terrible.
Well, it was like Adam was mentioning earlier. It's what Sam's tweet said. Sam Fells, that is also from Faxes from Uncle Dale. It's like the Blues just never got out of second gear. They couldn't be bothered to really try all that hard because they didn't have to.
I mean, just look at that third goal trickled over to Shen at like 2 miles an hour, and he goes top shelf. Like, how does that puck even get through? I mean, how this defensive system is so flawed and so broken that simple plays like that should never amount to anything are ending up in the back of the net. Like, just everything they do is backfiring on them right now.
Well, also, every opponent they play too, it's easy for everybody. It's not. There's nothing hard about playing the Blackhawks right now. And I think it was someone from Dallas that said it after that first game that they played, where I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along those same lines. Oh, it was the coach, whoever Dallas's coach is, said something about like whatever the Hawks are good at what they do. Like, what a fucking backhanded compliment. Yeah. They're good at what they do. What they do is shitty, and they're good at it. Like, it's embarrassing when you're getting called out by opposing coaches because they're like, the coach is saying what they do, they're good at what they do, which is be bad at hockey.
And then you got the Avalanche too going on their social media account and just, they post the final score of 7-3 and be like, can we play the Blackhawks every night?
It's such an embarrassing
getting absolutely brutally clowned on by literally every team they've come across. It happened in Nashville where, Pecorine made the comments that he did. I don't know if he had necessarily meant them as like chirps, saying, oh yeah, that was definitely one of my easier wins. You have Dallas's coach saying what he said. You got the Colorado Avalanche fucking social media people going after him. It's like they're just getting it from all angles. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, their fall from grace has been wild. And we've talked about how I was optimistic going into the year. I mean, we knew the defense, like we touched on earlier, sucks. I mean, but I was optimistic about the forwards. I was optimistic about the goalies. But if they don't score 5-6 goals a game and get elite goaltending, they don't win, and that is not a recipe for success. It'll get you a couple of hot streaks like we saw 2 weeks ago, but that's about it. It's never going to be enough to seriously contend. I mean, every pretty much must-win game they've had since Colin took over has been a loss. I mean, you can go back to last year when they were making that push and they had the weekend games against Dallas and Colorado also. And they lost both of those on home ice, and you had this stretch against divisional opponents where you took, 3 points out of what was available. So every time they have a stretch of games they need to win, they fall short.
Johnny, you're the only one who hasn't watched like any of these games. I would love to hear what you've been doing this entire time.
Just picture sunsets, beaches, nice happy thoughts.
Well, I mean, you check the score nice and it's the U.S.
And then you check the score, and they're losing 3-0 after 1 to the fucking Avalanche.
Yeah, I mean, at least all you had to do is like look at your phone and be like, haha, nope, and then just go about your day.
Yeah, I'll watch the game recaps too if I don't watch, and just like the first goal is just like me immediately getting pissed off at Ali Mata, and then I don't want to watch the rest of the highlights, and then that's it.
Dude, thank you for your service. It's really incredible. I mean, yeah, I think I had tweeted, and we had talked about in this podcast quite a bit about it, I should say. That the forward group, like we said, looked pretty good. It is technically on paper one of the deeper rosters that they have in terms of forwards. But then, a lot of injuries strike. Dylan Strome goes down with an injury.
My boy.
Duncan Keith, even though he doesn't contribute that much offensively anymore, he's down for an undisclosed amount of time where, it's nice having that stability on the back end because, maybe you can be a little bit more cowboyish in your own zone as a forward if you have somebody as reliable as Keith back there. And I know reliability is kind of subjective when it comes to this team's defense. It's very relative, but he is their top defender still. Whether or not he's an actual top 2 defender on any other team, he is the Hawks' top defender. He does provide a lot of that stability. But when he goes down, then you get Eric Gustafsson turning pucks over at the blue line even more often than we already do. And we get to see him go into the same corner as Slater Cuckoo. Like
my
God,
trying
to hump
that fucking sequence of events was just that summed up the season perfectly when you see the two of them fucking going after the same guy in the corner, leaving McKinnon wide open in the slot, and what happens? The puck's in the back of your net within 5 seconds. Like that doesn't summarize this team so far this season perfectly. I don't know what does, but I mean, As for Keith, he's obviously not the defenseman that he used to be, but I think minus the first, 3-4 games of the season where he didn't look like he gave the slightest bit of a fuck, I think he's been pretty awesome this year otherwise. So to lose a guy like that hurts, obviously, but even when he's in the lineup, it's still being weighed down by Eric Gustafsson making, half a dozen brutal turnovers a game, blowing assignments, just being generally useless out there. It's just they're a mess. And so when you take away a guy like that, it's even worse.
And then you got people like Alex DeBrincat who are, as much as I don't want to trash talk my special prodigal son, he is fighting it quite a bit right now. Just pucks are not going in, and you look at his hockey reference page, and he's having a pretty decent season despite not potting that many goals, but he's also shooting about 10% lower than his career average, and he's getting continually clocked in possession, being put on that line with Strome and Kane. And I know it's not going to be, your biggest, best possession line, but I still think they got to be at least even. I don't know. I think there's still a little bit more that remains to be seen. I really hope he returns to form because, good God, they need him really bad. Although at the same time, I mean, we'll get into this a bit later. I feel like any sort of like positive output that they have from any of these games going forward is just like Hess said earlier, just kind of empty calories and just hurts a lot of their draft chances at this point. Because I'd said not too long ago, it was like I would be ready to declare the Hawks back if they can beat Tampa Bay and like maybe a couple other teams. They didn't do that. And then they lost. I said they needed to win 3 of 4 versus Colorado and Dallas, and they walked out with 1 win. I mean, albeit 1 loss was a shootout loss. It was a close game, but again, it was fucking boring. And I just don't know, man. Like,
I mean, let's go back to that Tampa Bay game for a minute, because at that point the Hawks were rolling. Their hot streak was just snapped by Carolina, but that's 1 loss. They were still looking pretty good. Things are going decent. And what does Colin do? He fucking plays 7 defensemen so he can get Slater Cuckoo in the lineup against the Lightning.
Man, that was
his old team.
Rich to my blood.
To get a depth defenseman in against his former team, where what did he play? Maybe like half a season total with them. Adding up all the times he was called up, and then I'm a big believer in if it's not broke, you don't need to try and fix it. And things were going pretty well, and he fucks around with the lineup to get Cuckoo in against his former team, to play Kane, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, whatever he played that night, and they lost. And like I don't get him. I don't understand him.
Well, that's actually kind of one of the funny things is I remember a lot of people on Twitter, at least on my timeline, were having a field day with that roster decision, just because they tweeted out like as a joke, like, oh yeah, Slater Cuckoo's coming in to face his old team, ha ha ha, all that shit. And then Jeremy Colleton comes right out after the game and basically just confirms that was actually the case, which I don't understand at all. It's not like Slater Cuckoo was a mainstay in Tampa Bay whatsoever. He got bounced around between the NHL and the minors, and stayed mostly in the minors. Because even there, he was a 7th defenseman. He was a 7 or 8 defenseman. I don't know what this little curtain call courtesy deal was to put him back in when dressing 7 forwards. Well, what am I talking about? I mean, they might as well have just done that tonight even, but dressing 7 defensemen, it never works. It never worked when the Hawks had a Hall of Fame coach. Why in the fuck would anybody be convinced it would work under Jeremy Colleton?
Well, the other thing about that too is it's funny, like, to give Slater Cuckoo that like quote unquote revenge game and think that he's capable of making any impact in a revenge game. Like to be like, oh, we're like, it's his old team, it's a Slater Cuckoo revenge game. Like, no, like the Lightning are just gonna run around him because that's what everybody does. He's a turnstile.
They want him to play.
Right. The Lightning were like 7 defensemen. Fuck yeah, all 7 of them suck because none of them are Adam Bookfist.
It made me wish Jan Ruda was back on the team, to be honest, just to eliminate the factor of it a fucking revenge game.
I mean, that was a winnable game. They had their backup goalie in. They were missing Kucherov. Stamkos only played the first period. And you made Kane play close to 30 minutes, which, by the way, by the end of the game, he was gassed because he had one shot on goal in the third period that game. And you lost, like, whatever it was, like 3-1 in a perfectly winnable game.
And you don't have to play 7 defensemen in that game. Even if you want to get Cuckoo in the game, there's, like, who on the blue line has made themselves untouchable? There's nobody on the blue line that has earned the right to not be scratched, even for Slater Cuckoo. Like, right. I'm sorry. Maybe Duncan Keith and, when healthy, Connor Murphy. But I don't think Murphy – I don't remember if Murphy played in that game. But otherwise, there's nobody that deserves the playing time over Slater Cuckoo if you have a reason you want to play Slater Cuckoo. So even that just goes back to the fact that Colleton is – and Taze questioned it after the fact. He does not have a feel for the locker room and what will set this team up to be successful.
He completely threw Colleton under the bus after the game. 100%.
As he should have. It was a stupid decision.
Yeah, it was horrible.
I mean, honestly, it's nice that a lot of these players are kind of speaking up about it. I mean, which is really kind of funny, I guess, in a really sick, twisted, and depraved way as a fan, just because, like, you see a lot of these guys who, when Jeremy Colleton first came in, I remember very specifically a lot of quotes coming out about how forward they were to working with him and how they're going to buy into his system and how things are going to be turned around. And Patrick Kane even had like an interview, I'm convinced was held at gunpoint, where he said that, oh yeah, it's really quite simple. All we have to do is he kind of affirmed the whole, we need a training camp to sort of, iron this whole deal out. That never happened. And now look where it got you. It bit you in the ass so hard. It backfired so enormously that, I mean, you're on the cusp of your big 4 players just straight up revolting. And I mean, it's really not that far from it. You see Taves throw him under the bus. I'm pretty sure Kane at some point has made some pretty backhanded remarks. And then you got Leonard, like, whenever he's getting pulled, he's screaming like a wild man at the bench. I mean, the dysfunction among this team is just appalling. And to be honest, like, now that some more information has come out about Mark Crawford, even, like, I don't think it necessarily lands entirely on Jeremy Colleton, which, I mean, isn't saying much because his system sucks and he's a bad coach. But when you have a guy who is basically an equivalent of, like, the hockey Gestapo backing him up, like, what is there to be positive about in the Blackhawks locker room whatsoever?
Yeah,
well,
everyone...
go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you touched on the training camp, and everyone fucking claimed that that's what they needed last year. If they would have had the full training camp, things would be a lot better and all that, all that bullshit. And they looked worse coming out of the training camp because he actually, instead of running like the Quenneville Colleton hybrid system kind of thing they had going on last year, Colleton got 100% what he wanted to do. And it was so bad that John McDonough had to threaten his job just to get him to stop doing it. I mean, it's ridiculous. He is so in over his head. But now with all this stuff coming out about Mark Crawford, like that's who I was kind of saying, like, just give Mark Crawford the team, see what happens. He's not getting the job now. He'll be fired in the next day or two. And I mean, are you giving the team to Sheldon Brookbank? Fuck no, you're not. So, like, what? I mean, they're backed into a corner right now.
Yeah, and kind of what I was going to say too about the Magic training camp, quote unquote, is that the funniest thing about it is the system that Colleton ran last year, that the Hawks ran last year, that you could argue there was like something to it. That's like there was parts of it that worked, and at times they did outscore the competition and won games that way. Well, the Magic training camp resulted in a different system. And the whole point of the PP slap meeting that McDonough had with Colleton, supposedly, was you need to change the shit up. And Dylan Strome is talking about on the radio, we went back to what we did last year. So they're talking about doing the stuff they did last year. So the Magic training camp wasn't even the same system. It was instilling a new system that was decidedly worse. And like what led to that quick turnaround and those couple big wins on that West Coast trip and in Nashville was that quote, that new old system, if you will. And even still, now they haven't been playing that same way. And even with that like if you want to say like they are being more free with the offense, like they're still going station to station to get out of their own zone, even on power plays. So they're still getting out of the zone slow. They're still their roster is still slow in general. They can't keep up with the speed of other teams around them. And on top of that, they don't even have the cap space to field a fucking team. They have 11 forwards playing tonight. Like everything is just kind of a joke. And it's just all embarrassing, but it all comes back to me, to the coach. And, you mentioned the Mark Crawford stuff, but at the same time, the issues go beyond Mark Crawford, because like even last year, as much as like the outscoring the other team worked with the offense, the defensive system still stunk. Like they were still giving up a shit ton of goals. So it also goes back to Colleton, and like the Crawford thing, I think could be a blessing in disguise, because if he gets fired and Colleton gets fired, that means Colleton getting fired doesn't result in Mark Crawford taking over. Now, I don't know who the hell's going to be the head coach. It probably is not going to be Sheldon Brookbank. But it's got to be somebody new.
Actually, if we're gonna stick with a little bit of the trending retreads that they've sort of done over the years, Dennis Savard could be pulled from the ether.
Dude, I thought you were gonna say Chris Chelios. I 100% thought you were gonna say Chris Chelios.
Chris Chelios could too. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I don't think it's an ideal choice, but like seriously, who else are they going to reach out to? They practically have to go to the bargain bin, because like it's like Tommy said, they're not going to go for Brookbank. Who the fuck would hire Sheldon?
Brookbank would be so on brand.
Oh my god.
Oh, that would kick ass.
I mean, it's not that I want Dennis Savard to be head coach again, because that would just be hilarious. But like, I can't really see that many other options. Like Chelios could be one. He could be decent actually, but I just don't know. I have no idea what's going through their heads right now.
I mean, and to just give him the
situation.
Yeah, I mean, to just give Colin the 3 years or whatever they gave him right out of the gate last year, like you couldn't just slap the interim tag on him and see what you had at the end of the year and then like made a decision after that. Like they straight up gave him 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, like right away. Like why?
So I will defend that in that I actually liked the Colleton hire because it wasn't some retread fuckwad like Ken Hitchcock, or just pick a name out of a hat. Whoever the fucking guy was that used to be in Minnesota and then was in Anaheim, whose name escapes me right now.
Oh no, Bruce Boudreau.
Bruce Boudreau, right? I didn't even know if he's still coaching somewhere, but like that would have been like that's the kind of guy that typically gets hired. Like coach gets fired, he takes over, and so like I was just glad that it wasn't one of those dudes. But in the end, like I think like the Hawks just need to recognize that it hasn't worked.
No, I agree. And one of the other things that Carlton actually kind of had to cling on to the last season or whatever, was the power play just kind of going off on a extremely normal one and just having like oodles and oodles of production. A lot of people credit that to Carlton. I don't know if I necessarily buy that. But now
that to Patrick Kane, but
exactly. It's pretty much entirely because of Patrick Kane and then Eric Gustafson belching his way to 60 points. But
I give Colleton some of that. Sorry to cut you off again, but like there was a clear change in what they did from the Q system. That like there were like if you remember Joel Quenneville, one of the problems with the power play was that they were always standing around. There was a lot more movement once Colleton took over, which was a big part of it. But this year he's gone back to shitty personnel and a lot of standing around, and it's not working. Now I don't know if that is a player preference choice because of what they did for so long, but the power, like again, that's a noticeable change in what they're doing that from what worked last year to what's not working this year. And it's like to me, if I can sit on my couch and notice it, and I played JV hockey and I was the fucking checking center, I wasn't even good at the fucking sport, then Jeremy Colleton, who's an NHL head coach, should be able to recognize it and make the necessary changes.
Well, that's the thing.
I said that last night too, 100%.
They went back to a lot of standing around, and I swear to God, if I had a nickel for every time I saw Patrick Kane tonight, like just standing around, puck handling, just like waiting for a lane to open, just waiting, like nobody's really making themselves available or nothing. I'd seriously be in retirement right now. Like it's seriously just like this thing that you said they went back to from last year. and the wells have dried up. Like, the power play production isn't there, and they can't get out of a fucking power play without giving up like 20,000 shorthanded chances against.
Well, they can't even get into their zone on the power play because they go so station to station getting out of their own zone. So, like, the team clears the puck, they go get it. It takes them 3 passes to get to the blue line. Then the team just traps them at the opposite blue line, forces them to dump it in, lather, rinse, repeat. Like, they don't even get the puck in the zone. And when they do, everyone stands around and does their best Patrick Sharp imitation.
Yeah, it's terrible. And even when they had Boquist up here, they were still employing the stupid ass push him back entries when that is just not his MO. It's not at all. Boquist is capable of so much more than that. I didn't mean to go on a little Boquist tangent here, but it's true. You got to know what type of personnel you have. Like, Eric Gustafson can't skate, whatever. But you don't need to have him dropping it back to somebody who's streaking up the neutral zone, going 5 miles an hour, just doing nothing. When you could just have Patrick Kane stick handle around fools, Like, you could have Adam Boquist up here just doing what he does naturally to get these zone entries, and automatically the power play would just be better by having just a decent setup guy, essentially, like a guy you can go to who can just break through the neutral zone and get in the fucking offensive zone. And they just don't possess that anymore, and the system that they employ with it just doesn't allow for it. I am super done with Jeremy Colleton. I don't want to see him in a Hawks game ever again. I don't want to see him behind the bench. I don't want to see him on my television. I want to take his glasses and break them in half. I am done.
He's so in over his head, and he has no answers for anything. Like, anytime something gets tough, what's the solution? Let's double shift Kane. Like, that's it. That's all he's ever come up with in his year plus on the job.
Does
let's
anybody
get Kane
know how
extra
many
shifts.
minutes Kane played tonight?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna find out right now. Keep talking amongst
24. I think 24. I was just looking at it.
Here's a fun quote from Jonathan Toews after tonight. Literally, exact words. Ben Pope from the Sun-Times tweeted this. I mean, we tried.
Oh man,
that is story of the season right there.
That is just a pack it in. Okay, I actually didn't realize this, but at evens, the Blackhawks as a team had a 62.5, or no, that was third period, 54.55 share, which is pretty damn good.
Well, when you tell me that it was 62 in the third period, that just screams score effects.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? What's the word I'm looking for? Disjointed, disgruntled, either or. As disgruntled as I am after this game, like, they at least looked like, I don't know, they try. I guess to just kind of back Jonathan Toews up just a little bit, it does look like they tried, and they did only have 11 forwards. But still, at the same time, like, the goals weren't there, and maybe that is score effects. But like,
I mean, but
man,
how many?
I don't know, man.
How many tough saves did Jake Allen make tonight?
None.
I can't think of any.
That's the thing, and that's where the possession ledger is kind of flawed. Is because sure, it looks like they played well on paper, but like, every time, I swear to God, every time Jake Allen was faced unopposed by a Kane or a DeBrincat, or literally anybody, Saad even had a couple chances, it just went straight into his glove. He barely moved. He didn't move.
Yeah.
And then there's that one Alex Nylander 2-on-1. Oh, just horrific all around. I mean,
his feet weren't even moving. His feet were not.
Toews was going to the net and everything, but then Nylander, for whatever reason, decided to just shoot high and completely missed the net with no chance for a rebound.
Like, I mean, he could have walked that in. He could have walked that in another 10 feet at least and taken a decent shot.
Oh, yeah. Or he could have deferred to Toews. The passing lane was there.
Yeah. That's a guy.
He had options. He just ripped it over the net and completely missed.
Other than a stretch of maybe half a dozen games last month where I was like, okay, this is the guy they traded for, Nylander belongs in Rockford.
Yeah,
right now he belongs in Rockford.
I remember a lot of people in my mentions after that one, was it the Capitals or the Bruins they played in the preseason, just got their asses completely waxed. I think it was
the Washington game, yeah.
Yeah. I tweeted out something like, wow, Alex Nylander might suck, because that is exactly what we saw, like, or at least what we heard from Buffalo fans, that he was just a complete floater. He had tangible offensive skills, like the playmaking skills there, the vision's there, but just none of it comes together for him seemingly ever. Like like you said, outside of a stretch of games, like the dude just he looks like he's fucking stoned. I know I say that a lot, but seriously, like take a look at his face. The guy looks just constantly under the influence of something.
Yeah, and I mean, other than maybe half a dozen games where it was like you saw the flashes of what they thought they were getting. I mean, he certainly doesn't belong in the top line, and he probably doesn't belong in the NHL right now either. I mean, I don't get it because like Doc's been a healthy scratch and Kubalik's been scratched twice, and I know he scratched Nylander early in the year, but what the fuck has he done lately to earn staying on the top line? Like absolutely.
The big problem is there's nobody to replace him. Like
I'd argue Kubalik should be up there, and he hasn't even given him a shot. But that's just
that's fair. But at the same time, Kubalik playing with Kampf and Saad has been one of the only lines that's worked all year. That's one of the only lines that has consistently had success in both possession and creating scoring chances. And like, there's nobody better. And the other best option is Kirby Dach, who, for as long as Strome is out, and probably even if Strome's in the lineup, Dach should still be playing center, and arguably should be the second line center, because like at this point, like you basically should just write off trying to win this year. And this is the third year in a row that it's before Christmas, and I'm already looking at we should just fucking tank. Like
suck air for Lafreniere.
Right, whatever. I mean, like go for the guy. I think his last name is pronounced Lafreniere, actually. So we got to come up with something different. It's very, very fucking French. But the
America,
whole,
goddamn it,
right? But absolutely, America. But my point is, like they should now be focused on development. And so, like, I could understand having Adam Boqvist in the minors for like getting that extra year of control. I'm a White Sox fan. I'm big on the rebuild ideas and controlling valuable assets as long as you can. But there's no reason he shouldn't be up in the NHL other than that contract year playing, because he's probably the best defenseman in the organization, and he's the most important piece moving forward, because he's probably the highest ceiling guy along with Dach. Those two dudes are priorities 1 and 2 at this point in terms of their development. And Boqvist is not going to develop properly playing 80 more games or however many more games are left in the AHL. Something not 80 unless they make the playoffs. But it should just be at this point development moving forward. So Dach should just be playing center. So with that, you do need Nylander to bring it back to what we were talking about. Like you have to hope Nylander something, because you clearly traded something for Nylander, because Jokic Haru was your best defenseman last year when he played here and is having a good year in Buffalo. And so if Nylander does not turn into something, you traded a valuable player and asset for a piece of shit player and asset. So they need to develop him. So at this point, I'm just kind of like, fuck it, play him on the second line or the first line. Give him enough rope to hang himself, and if he becomes something, he becomes something.
That's fair enough. Yeah. It's a bit of a catch-22 as well, because a lot of his better output actually came when he was in the bottom 6. So I don't know if they want to experiment with that again, but I mean, it's at least worth taking a look at. I mean, as long as you do have like that mentality of, yeah, we're gonna basically just punt this year. I mean, excuse me, going for Lafreniere, however the fuck you pronounce his name. That dude's generational talent. I really think that if they have a shot at going for him, they should go for him, like you said. If that means just like tinkering with the lineup a little bit, like I agree, Dach should be second line center. His play style is most parallel to Strome's, and he has a higher ceiling, and the development aspect is definitely there. Boqvist, you've seen my tweets a lot. I believe that he firmly should be up here. There's no reason he shouldn't be, especially he should not be beneath Slater fucking Cuckoo in any circumstance whatsoever, or Ian McCoshen, who sucks, and you will not convince me otherwise. I don't know. I'm big on the whole development idea, and realistically, I feel like that's where the season, like, as much as we wanted to believe that they could at least be competitive, we're going through like a bit of 5 or 7 stages of grief where there's a lot of denial going around about what this team what we thought it would be and what it actually is. And as far as the season is concerned, I know Taves and Kane aren't getting any younger, and I know Keith and Seabrook are way up there as well. But man, I mean, if you get a guy like Lafreniere in in turn because you suck shit now, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, there's actually quite a deep draft this year. Like,
yeah, I was going to say even Quentin Byfield, if you got the second pick, would be a huge home run.
And I think it's God, that one, I think it's Lucas Raymond. I keep wanting to say Mason Raymond, but I know that's way old news.
Oh my
Fuck
God.
that guy.
Yeah, I know. Let's not rehash bad memories, but no, yeah, Raymond is there at what seems to be like number 3, and then off the prospects that I have looked at in the top 10, there's not a ton of drop off from like 3 to 10, all that much.
I mean, here's the thing though, is the Hawks. Okay, they won the Stanley Cup. Their third Stanley Cup in 6 years, 5 years ago now.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in the 5 years since, they've punted now 3 seasons we're going on. I mean, are you giving Stan the keys to try and fix this or keep this, get it trending in the right direction? Because I'm not. Like I'm out on him. What has he done since they won the Cup in 2015?
Well, that's actually a point I want to make is like, even though he has had a hand in kind of dismantling what they had when they were competitive, he's also had a very large hand in rejuvenating what they have in youth. His pro scouting might suck shit, but their rookie scouting, their amateur scouting is actually quite good. So if we're talking about handing him the keys and making like important decisions, like signing big name free agents, even though he got Leonard, which is a really, really nice pickup. I don't know if I could do that.
In a Leonard, let's be honest.
Exactly. No, yeah, he fell ass backwards in a Leonard, but like, if you have a no-brainer pick like a Lafreniere or a Byfield or a Raymond, like I can live with that. And I mean, this is the same guy that snagged Alex DeBrincat at number 39. He got Ian Mitchell like even later. I like, this is one of the reasons why I'm so hesitant to let Stan kind of just get fucked, because man, as much as he has kind of fucked this team like in its current state, they're pretty set. Like, that Kurashev kid doesn't look bad. That Tim Soderlund looks like he could be a really good bottom six contributor at some point. Trading for Mackenzie Entwistle looks like it's going to pay off. Not in spades, but like, he's going to be, I think he's going to be a contributor. That trade for Perlini for Alec Regula, like, Perlini has played 15 games or whatever it is. He hasn't registered a point with Detroit. And then meanwhile, Regula is still 19 years old. He doesn't turn 20 until August, and he's above a point per game in the OHL. Like, I don't know. As far as what we see now, like, I can see every reason that people have listed off to fire Stan. But what I think a lot of people are ignoring, I'm not trying to give him that big of a cushion for this, is the future actually looks pretty bright. And it's largely because of his amateur scouting.
And here's the other thing, and it's something that we talked about on Live from the Five-Hole, which is Faxes from Uncle Dale's podcast. But if you do fire Stan, like, from the fan perspective, is John McDonough and Rocky Wirtz really the two-headed monster you want looking for your next head of hockey ops?
Absolutely not.
I don't want John McDonough making any decision that has to do with hockey.
Right.
Anything in the hockey ops department, like, he can get fucked. And his job should strictly be business, and that's it.
Right, but he's still, like, my point is, he is president of the team, so
right.
He's going to make that hire. And so the problem is, like, when you look at like the big names that they've gotten, like when they got Quenneville, and like even like just looking at like them hiring Stan Bowman, who like his track record. I mean, even if you want to give the first cup to Dale Talon, because that was mostly the team he built, like, Stan did retool that core for 13 and 15, and honestly, even 14 you can count as like a hugely successful year because of the run they went on there. So like that run was the work of Stan, even though the core wasn't 100% built by him. But the thing about it is that getting Quenneville and having Stan Bowman as your general manager, those are the results of having Scotty Bowman in the organization. And if you're going to fire his son, do you think Scotty Bowman's going to help you bring in his replacement? I have my serious doubts about that. So
yeah, I mean, I get all that. I'm just saying, you know, in the 5 years since they've last won a championship, we're about to punt third season away, and it just like I mean, it's mostly because of his doing. I guess is my point. But I totally understand keeping him too.
Yeah, I just have a very, I would say, rational fear about what they might do if Stan is gone, because I mean it looks bad now, but unbeknownst to a lot of people, it could look a lot worse, like a lot worse. Like, could you imagine some fucking hack like Peter Chiarelli taking over this team?
Ugh.
No, I don't want them to reach into the bargain bin. And you know what? Maybe they pull a rabbit out of a hat, and maybe like Chelios becomes GM and he's like fucking Iserman 2.0 or something like that, or something just totally insane. But like the chances of that happening are still slim to none. I'd rather stick with Bowman, to be honest. I went on record about this the other week as one of my hot takes, and you know, for all intents and purposes, I think Stan's done a really good job of retooling this team in terms of its youth, not necessarily in terms of what we can consider like a pro roster. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, personally, I think Stan gets one more head coach, because I think he can. Like, I was of the opinion that firing Colleton was not going to happen, because basically it would be Stan Bowman signing his own pink slip. And Sam Fells, the overall editor of Faxes From Uncle Dale, did kind of change my mind in that basically firing Colleton could kind of be the one thing that Stan can do to save his job and say, look, we thought we had something here, it didn't work out, but I think I can do better. Like, we tried something here, let's get a little more conventional. Maybe they go, like, I don't know who they hire, but if they try something different and he gets that guy, maybe he gets like, this next season and one more to prove that the players he's drafted and traded for in terms of restocking the system are good, and whatever new head coach he brings in are worthwhile and are the solution. But otherwise, I mean, like, the Hawks have to basically make the playoffs next year. Otherwise, they're going to clean house, because they're not making the playoffs this year. That's pretty much a lost cause. And there's no way in hell that Rocky and McDonough are going to stand for a fourth year of no playoffs. And especially, what is it? I think that'd be 6 years in a row of not even winning a series.
Exactly.
And it'd be right when they fired Quenneville, they said, whether they believed it or not, they said it was a playoff roster. And they didn't go to the playoffs last year. They're not making the playoffs this year. So, I mean, they've kind of already, they've made the playoff comments already. So, if they do keep them, it's definitely next year bust. But it just, god damn, it's so bad right now.
I mean, I think you could still, and maybe even you could make the make the case that there's like, if they brought in a different coach, they have the offensive talent and clearly the goaltending, that like this roster, quite frankly, the West is so bad, this roster could make the playoffs. I think that the coaching is holding them back big time, and I think that like the team is kind of like, what the fuck is this guy doing? It's a little bit like what's going on with the Bulls and Jim Boylan, and I'm not even a Bulls fan, but like you can tell that those guys do not like that coach. And I think that we're kind of close to that point here with the Hawks. But I mean, at this point, like it's not like it's, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's not a whole lot to do, but like there's still only 6 points out of a playoff spot right now.
Yeah, and they're
still
like a week ago, right?
Right. Yeah, and there's still 50 plus games to go. So a new coach, if they did go that route, could help this team make the playoffs. And I mean, quite frankly, even like with some good luck, even Colleton could do it. But I think it's time to move on, and I think it will happen. Like, if they lose the next couple of games, Colleton even said tonight, so I saw on Twitter, he said, like, this team can go on a run. It just needs to happen soon. And while I agree with that, the reason he knows it needs to happen soon because if it doesn't, his ass is going to be on the street.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
they just went on a run and then they lost. They went 1-6-1 though. So
right, and that's the problem. But I mean, you figure they'll lose to Boston. If they lose to New Jersey, which is the game after that, I mean that's when he can't survive that. If they somehow manage to lose to this Devils team, there's no way he can coach another game. Absolutely.
And those games the last few years versus New Jersey have been just an absolute track meet.
I mean, yeah, and I don't. I totally agree that a different coach can get more out of these guys. I think, first of all, I don't think they buy into Collins. So that's part of the problem. Maybe they'd buy into a new voice. Also, if somebody can get a defensive structure that is more of a zone than they play right now, I think would do them a huge amount of favors.
I agree. Just a quick comment about the Bulls before we move into questions. That is like the darkest timeline. Like I thought the Hawks shit was bad. Like the Bulls they're bad, man. They're really bad. And like beyond description bad. Like I can't even think of the adjectives to describe the Bulls. Every time I get on Twitter, like after a Bulls game, because a lot of the times they end a little bit later than the Hawks do. Everybody's gone to bed and everything like that because, you know, show's over, hockey's done. Basketball still goes on for a little bit. And everything I see is just the worst. Like I feel secondhand depression just from what just gets retweeted onto my timeline. The Bulls are so bad. It's fucked up.
It is so fucking amazing that John Paxson, the guy that played for Phil Jackson and won NBA championships, thinks that Jim Boylan is an NBA caliber coach that could lead a team to a championship. Like that is fucking amazing to me. But
I saw a pretty funny tweet from Jim at Cheer the Anthem earlier today. It's basically they should just make Boylan and Colleton fight for Christmas. That would honestly make my day, make my year. But we should probably get into questions before this goes a little bit too goes on a bit too long. And this first one comes from Wally Maz at WallMaz35, who I actually owe a bit of an apology to. I've been kind of tough on him these last few weeks just because my frustration is compounded by the Hawks just being terrible and people who try to convince me otherwise. I just have a lot of disdain for, a lot of irrational disdain for, because I don't want to sound like this high and mighty asshole, but I've seen this movie before. I know what the fuck they are, and it's not good. And when people try and tell me that they're better than they actually are, it just makes me more sad. So I apologize. He's a really smart dude, and I like him. But he asks, who has been the MVP for the Hawks so far this season? Best forward so far for the Hawks? Best defenseman? Best newcomer? And biggest disappointment?
Well, first
biggest
two were
disappointment. Easy. Yeah, I mean, MVP has got to be Kane.
Yeah.
Kane or Leonard and Crawford right there behind him.
Or
yeah.
Leonard and Crawford, yeah, easily. I mean,
but I mean, those are the three choices. Yeah.
Best forwards, Kane, obviously. Although Brandon Saad can make a case for like second place because he's been busting his ass this year. Best defenseman, I mean, they sure rely on Connor Murphy a lot, but then Duncan Keith is still there as well. So I'd say
I'm going with Adam Boqvist.
I would go with Adam Boqvist too if he was on the fucking team. But here we are.
He was the best defenseman when he was on the roster.
Well, that's the thing is like when he played, he wasn't bad. Like everybody's like, "Oh, he's gonna suck shit on defense." He wasn't bad.
He didn't completely shit himself. No,
he
was good. I mean, I remember specifically there was one I think he might have taken a penalty or something in one of the games, but it was like he outmuscled his man on the boards, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, isn't that what he's not supposed to do yet? Like, so it's like I said earlier. Like, I think he should be here. I think he's got what it takes, but that's a kind of a moot point. We're gonna beat that horse to death 4 times by now.
And much like I've said about Kirby Dog, just wait until he puts on like another 15 or so pounds. Oh man, That kid's gonna be hard to knock off the puck, and he's got some serious magic in his game. I really like him. Biggest disappointment, you could literally point to just about anybody, but I would honestly say probably Jonathan Taves in terms of forwards at least.
Just the whole team. The whole team.
Yeah, I'd say the whole team. If we're going individually, I'll take Taves right now. He needs to step it up for sure.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Like, I would honestly almost, like, this might be shocking coming from me, almost put DeBrincat into that bracket, but his shooting percentage is so low, I just don't know if I can do it yet.
He just needs to get one puck going off the shin or something, and
monkey off his back. I mean, it happens to literally every player within their first few years in the league. You know, I thought it was going to happen last year, but then he went off and scored 40. But I guess this is kind of his de facto sophomore slump. I can understand it. I'm not going to get too mad at him. Second question came from Dave Melton at _Dave Melton. more likely to make the playoffs, Hawks or Bears? And your boys over at Faxes already said Bears, and I definitely agree. I don't think that's a question.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, the Vikings losing tonight on Monday Night Football actually opens up a path for the Bears to make the playoffs. Whereas
Vintage
the Hawks,
Kirk Cousins.
oh yeah, big time. But yeah, I think it's the Bears, and I'm gonna make but because I don't think either team will make the playoffs, I'm writing in the White Sox, my friend.
All right, coming out of left field, no pun intended. I like it. I mean, Johnny, Tommy, you guys got any input on that, or you just kind of agree?
I'll take the Bears.
The Bears until they lose to the Cowboys on Thursday.
I was literally going to say that too. Until they lose to the Cowboys on Thursday,
that'll be it.
Bears.
Well, here's the thing.
No, they're going to beat the Cowboys.
No,
they're not.
I think I have a hot take. I think if Trubisky can kind of maybe get it together against any team's defense, it's probably the Cowboys because the Cowboys are fucking awful.
Well, the Cowboys' defense isn't good, and Trubisky does beat up on bad defenses. And the Cowboys have just fallen apart, and they got manhandled by the Bills on Thanksgiving. I don't believe in the Cowboys. I think the Bears are going to win. I think the Bears are going to win, and it's going to set me up for even bigger heartbreak when they finish 8-8.
Where is that game? Is it in Dallas or in Chicago?
It's at home. It's in Chicago.
Okay.
Ooh, they got a bigger chance than I think. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going Bears then too. I gotta go Bears. From Time to Fly Back to Jupiter, Florida at Tops 27. Does pineapple belong on pizza? I don't care.
Oh my god.
Fuck no.
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 You seem
Fuck
pretty.
no. I'm very sure that I don't want fruit on pizza. Yeah.
So,
I've had it before.
That's a
I'm
no.
very neutral.
Oh, he's gonna come in and say yes.
No, I was gonna say I'm very neutral about it. I don't say yes. Like I'm not over here like standing for pineapple on pizza, but I've had it and I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's good. Like I don't think it's worth putting it on there.
I think my stand will always go to Supreme. Any sort of Supreme pizza is going to be one of my go-tos, except for black olives. Fuck them. I hate black olives.
Gross again.
Yeah, disgusting.
Okay, I'm glad we're all in agreement there. I thought somebody was definitely going to bite my head off. If and when this game becomes unwatchable, what should I watch on Amazon, Netflix? Well, you're too late. This is from Lauren Wills at L Wills.
You've been watching
it.
it.
Is long over, but I would say if you actually have Hulu, I'd either start watching Nathan For You because that is a laugh out loud funny
that show's
show.
Fucking hilarious. Yeah.
That show is awesome. Or I would say pick up Letterkenny if you haven't already, because Letterkenny's some pretty good shit too, and it has hockey intertwined, so that's a good choice.
Yeah, but whoever writes Letterkenny hates hockey.
Apparently, yeah. No.
And deservedly so, but still.
Actually, I think it is Jared Kiso, the guy who plays Wayne. I think he's one of their biggest contributors in writing, and he was a hockey player. I think he just likes to, kind of take the South Park approach, where you just kind of make fun of everybody and not just like one specific group of people. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Do you guys have any other Amazon or Netflix suggestions? Because I would also say I heard The Mandalorian's very good, but I don't have Disney Plus, so I don't.
And
really
Mandalorian's awesome.
Just watch that shit for Baby Yoda, dude.
Yeah, The Mandalorian's awesome. On Amazon though, Jack Ryan kicks ass.
All right, and Dan Insinga interjected with the Irishman on Netflix, which I have yet to see. I heard it was very good.
The other good show, if you have Disney Plus, which I'm going to put my neck on the line here with this one, but High School Musical, the series, is genuinely laugh out loud. Like it is very well written, very well done.
I've never even seen those movies.
I mean, it's not nearly as offensive as Johnny's White Claw tweet from last night.
Knew that was going to get brought up.
Yeah, we looked at the ban for him on here. What's with that?
Here we are at the tail end of the podcast. I'm not going to let it go. You don't ever tweet that shit again or you're gone. I'll show you the fucking door. You're done. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. Fuck. Next question is from Krampus Lindholm at Hellblazer Vice. Will Mitch ever kiss titties again? I think we already kind of talked about this. Yes. I think he'll torch Dallas's defense very badly.
If they win on Thursday, he will get to kiss the titties.
Yes, I agree. Definitely. This isn't so much a question as it is a statement from Bell Ulj at Wobot. I thought Adam Hess was dead. He is very much alive and in our presence. whether or not you take
what
that.
is dead may never die.
Yeah, I agree. Although the comments I made after it about you only being alive when your wife is out of town, I'm a very big fan of your tweets about your meals that you acquire whenever she happens to step out the door for more than 5 minutes.
When the wife's away, the mouse will play, dude.
Oh my god. Okay, I actually have a question for you stemming from that. Just out of morbid curiosity, what is the most absurd thing you have gotten, like just food wise, while your wife has been gone? Like the one thing you'd be just completely ashamed to admit you ingested while she was gone.
I'm not ashamed to admit it, but easily like the one thing that I got when she was gone that I was like, all right, we'll go for it, was there's this thing at Pizza Hut. It's like a Cheez-It pizza, which so let me preface this real quick and set this up. Like I'm a big fan of the Pizzone from Pizza Hut. Like the Pizzone from Pizza Hut's like $6, or you can get 2 for $10. Like big, like cheap, so like delicious, very good. To me, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, it'll just be like a Pizzone with like a cheesy kind of crust on the outside. So like you get it, it's like 4 little things about the size of my palm. And the first one I ate, and I was like you get 4 of them, like I said. So I eat the first one, and I'm like, all right, this isn't that good, but whatever, it's fine. And by the time I got to the end, I was literally questioning if it was even edible. I was like, this is terrible. Like
that's the worst.
It legitimately like started to taste more and more like plastic the further I got into it. Like it was, I mean, it was cheap, and like I said, I thought I had good intentions. Like I thought it would be good, but oh man, that was so bad. I don't really get that wild. I don't get like dumb with I usually just buy cheap shitty food like Taco Bell or Pizza Hut or something, because they're both like right down the street from my house. But yeah, like that thing was nasty. I could not recommend staying away from that enough.
That reminds me of a bit of an experiment I had not too long ago. Both my parents were out of the house, and I had just decided to go on like this huge eating binge and just, go on and eat whatever the fuck I wanted, because usually I'm pretty strict about my diet just because I don't want to like get diabetes or anything crazy like that. I have really weird, irrational fear about contracting some sort of disease, or not disease, but you know what I'm talking about. Just something from not eating right. But the one time I kind of branched out, I was like, hey, you know what? That looks good. Was mistakenly so the bacon wrapped like pepperoni fucking deep dish pizza from Little Caesars.
Ugh.
Oh my God. I got 2 pieces into that fucking thing, and I had to toss it, man. Like, it sounds good. It really does. It really does. And to be honest, the ads...
Does it, though?
They tricked me. Yeah, it does. Like, bacon wrapped deep dish pizza, dude, fuck you. That sounds amazing.
Oh, Jesus.
But Little Caesars, too, like, it can come through in the clutch sometimes. It's cheap, and it's not... I'm of the opinion, and this might be a controversial opinion, I'm really of the opinion that there's not really such a thing as bad pizza. There's just pizza that isn't good. Like all pizza is pizza, and pizza inherently is good. So like Little Caesars, like for what you get, like what you're signing up for when you get Little Caesars. But like they're like specialty weird stuff that they try, I stay away from. I just go basic Little Caesars when I go Little Caesars. I go basic. Give me a pepperoni pizza. That's all I need.
That's all I need too. And I decided to branch out. And it bit me in the ass. It was just way too much of a good thing. That's the best way.
We could definitely cross off Pizza Hut and Little Caesars off our first possible sponsors.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hey, no, hang on. Just because I don't like Pizza Hut. I mean, if you throw these guys a bone, man, let's get some pizzones up in here.
For like 10 minutes.
They do have that dank as fuck stuffed crust. That shit is
yeah, it's just good. Yeah.
I get a side of just like the medium buffalo sauce just to dunk my stuffed crust pieces in there. Holy shit, that is bomb. Highly recommend.
Again, like Pizza Hut, it's not like the highest quality stuff. You know what you're signing up for, but like for the price, it's hard to argue with.
Here, I think this is our last question, and this is one that's directly aimed at you, from Rose Rankin at @Rose_Rankin says, ask Adam, I'm assuming this is for you, Adam what his least favorite season is, and I'm really excited to hear your answer.
Wait, okay, I thought she said what my favorite season was, so my response is wrong then, but my least favorite season is fall. Fuck what? Fall. Fall is trash. Complete garbage, dude. Everything dies, okay? It's so you have to watch everything around you die. It rains constantly, and it's like 40 degrees and rainy. There's nothing worse, no worse weather than cold rain. Like it is unmanageable. And even when it's like quote unquote nice out in the fall, like it's 60 degrees and sunny, that still feels fucking cold compared to when you get into like the spring and it's 60 degrees and sunny and you're breaking out your tank tops and shorts. Like when it's 60 degrees and sunny in the fall, you're breaking out jeans and sweatshirts. So fuck fall. Winter is the best season.
All right, my comment for that.
Bullshit.
In Dallas, when you're going from hundreds and 90s to fall, it's absolutely fantastic. I don't care what. It's 65 tomorrow, and I could not be happier.
God damn you. I can't believe. Okay.
I'll back you up on that. Fall fucking sucks. I'll back you up on
you.
that.
No.
Don't even,
great after
don't even say, okay.
in Texas.
No, fall has no good holidays. The only pluses for fall is that football comes back and hockey starts. No good holidays. It has Thanksgiving at the end, but Halloween, like, what is it? Like, Halloween, I'm 25 years old. What the fuck do I care about Halloween anymore? I don't go trick-or-treating. Like, I'm way past the phase of getting drunk in a costume just for fun. Like, I can get drunk on my own on any other night for no reason. I don't need an excuse to get drunk anymore. So, like, there's no, like, it's just, like I said, everything dies. Thanksgiving is the only good holiday, and the weather sucks.
I'll back you on all of that. I will back you up.
I disagree, especially because where I'm located. Especially where I'm located. I live in central Minnesota. Very few people know this, but I live in central Minnesota, and the fall colors around here every year are just stellar. I mean, the fall colors are good, but outside of the sports, I think there's zero of fall. No, I disagree completely. I think the weather up here is nice enough to back it up, especially when you're along the North Shore, and it's a very nice, crisp 55 degrees and sunny, and you're going out for a nice hike. Oh, man, that shit is the best. I'll post some pictures later to prove you fucking wrong, buddy, because there is nothing better than walking outside, getting a big nose full of that fall air, and basically just immediately come in your pants.
Agreed.
It smells like fresh cut grass.
Thanks for that visual.
That carries over from the summer, and you got all the leaves that are on the ground. It's the best. I don't know how you could argue against that whatsoever.
That sounds like it would be even better in the spring.
Yeah, but spring doesn't fucking exist in the Midwest. It's always snowing.
Same here. We go from winter to summer.
Yeah. The spring sucks. That's my least favorite season. You know why? It's because we go into fucking April and we're still under blizzard warning. That's stupid. I will never forget the one.
Minnesota is practically Canada, and it's just winter there all.
I won't deny that. It's true, easily winter for like 7 months out of the year, I would say, because I'll never forget the one time that we had gone up to a cabin for Memorial Day weekend, and it was under 2 feet of snow. That was in May. It's a joke.
That's
like living in Buffalo. Like, I remember, like, you'll be like watching, or like even Denver. I got a new job. I work from home, but I was in Denver for training. And I was there the first week of October, and one day it was 60 degrees. The next day it was 20 degrees, and there was 6 inches of snow on the ground, dude. It was very wild. Never seen anything quite like that. To go from 60 to 6 inches of snow in one day.
Oh, I've seen that movie multiple times, but then again, that is just a byproduct of living in one of the northernmost states and just basically being in Canada.
Right. But I grew up in Illinois. I live now in central Indiana, right by Indianapolis. So I've always experienced all 4 seasons, and I can tell you unequivocally, fall is the worst one. It's not even a competition. Like we try. I'm a big winter person. I'm a big winter person.
Positivity into this podcast.
I agree there.
But just fucking you killed it. It's nice to know we won't have you back. So no, I'm just kidding. But anyway,
listen, if you're a bunch of false students, I don't want to come back.
We're fine. We'll be on cordial terms. Right now, I'm basically just the British appeasing Hitler at this point. By just kind of, rubbing your back and telling you everything.
Are you calling me Hitler? What the fuck?
I mean, you hate fall, so what else do you hate? I can only imagine.
All right, I'd like to just add one more comment before we end here. We've been talking about a lot of negativity tonight, so I'd like to spread some positivity. I just want to say that Henry Yokoharju tonight scored a power play goal for the Sabres.
How about you go chug a 6-pack of White
That's
Claw?
not positive.
Yeah, well, guess what? Alex
I'm
Mueller
sorry.
had a 2-on-1 with Taves, and he shot the fuck over the net. So
I hate this.
who got
I
the
hate
best of
my
that
life
deal?
so much. This podcast is over. Goodbye.
I'm so sorry.